All right, we're going to dive into some TypeScript now, which I mentioned many times in the previous videos, but it gives us some really nice developer experience for writing JavaScript because we can have things like type safety and various other goodies. So what I'm going to do, I've created just an empty folder called Lesson 6, and I'm going to go into my terminal and just go into Lesson 6 like so. And we are going to run a couple commands here. Now, first of all, you will need to have Node installed at this point. Very easy to install. I recommend if you're on a Mac, there is a way you can get it. You can just Google the word install Node Mac, and you'll get this thing, and you can download it. Of course, you can change it to Windows and all that kind of stuff. But I do, if you're just a beginner, just get the installer package. You install it, you go, it'll do stuff to your path, it'll do all the things for you. I'd say it's a lot easier to set up than Flutter for most people. You can also just do it this way. You can curl and install the specific version that you want and all that kind of stuff. And this is actually using something called NVM, Node Version Manager, the equivalent of FVM in Flutter, as well as there's another one that's escaping me right now, but it allows you to have different versions of Node because obviously, just like when you have different versions of Dart or even the Flutter SDK, they can behave differently. So I already have it installed. You get it up and running, and of course you should be able to type the word node -- version, just like Flutter and Dart, and you should see something there. I'm on 18.20, seems good to me. Now, if you did want multiple things, it ships with NVM now, so you can just do NVM use and then, type in the version that you specifically want and change it there. But it's all good. We're good with 18. We're going to go. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to install something here. So first I'm going to do npm init right in the lesson 6 folder. So this will initialize. It's kind of like, I guess, initializing a Flutter project or a Dart project. And we'll just call it, lesson 6 and version 1. Give it a description, give it an entry point, sure, all this kind of stuff. We're just going to click through and type yes. Okay, so now what we got is a package.json. So this is your pub spec. Your pub spec file. It's different. It's not YAML. It's JSON based, but it's the same kind of idea. It's just a different configuration methodology. Basically, we have our name, our package name or our project name, the version of it, all very similar to a pub file. Now, what we want to do is actually add something. So like doing Flutter pub add or Dart pub add. However, in here we do npm install. And we're going to install specifically TypeScript, but we're going to do something called save dev, which is like when you do, I think it's --dev or :dev or something in Dart. And what this will do is put it not in our dependencies, but in our dev dependencies, because this JavaScript app we're going to make, we're never going to ship TypeScript with it for it to run. It doesn't run in TypeScript. It will run in JavaScript in the browser. So it's a dev dependency. It's kind of like adding build runner or something. It's not really there. And you'll see we got a package lock.json, which I think you can guess what that's kind of like. Your pub lock, pub spec lock, and it's just kind of like giving the exact versions of the things it got based on what we've had here. And you can do this. It's the same kind of stuff, right? This is saying like don't increase we can increase some patch versions and minor versions, but keep the major, at 5. You can of course make it exact, all that kind of stuff. One difference here is it should be a string as opposed to, if you do this, you get, some errors. There we go. So, but we don't have to worry about that. It's all good. Okay. So now we have that. And then there's something we need to also have, which is called npx, which I believe now you would get with Node. So let's just see npx version. There we go. Cool. That version seems fine to me. And what we're going to run is npx tsc init. And this is just giving us now a way to have our TypeScript. So it's created a tsconfig.json. You can think of this kind of as like an analysis options or like your build runner options. And it has some sort of settings in it, like, what kind of modules and stuff like that. There's a whole bunch. You can read through it, but don't get too lost in it. Usually when you have a problem, you'll Google it and it'll say update your tsconfig with this property. So, don't worry about it too much. Okay, so now we've initialized it with that, and we've looked at that file. And let's create a file. So this came with, or no, it didn't, but we said our main is index.js. So we're going to make that file, but we're not going to make it .js. We're going to make it index.ts. Something else I want to do before I forget, because I might just after this commit this code, the node modules folder is a massive file. And actually, sorry, it's not that massive now because we've only added one dependency, but add a couple more and all their sub dependencies and everything. It ships a lot of code. So we don't want this to be version controlled in Git, and you should be using Git, even if you're using it locally, always use Git because it basically tracks your changes if you're committing often enough. But we're going to make a git ignore file. And I'm actually just going to do this in the root of our whole project because we might have multiple TypeScript files. So one thing I want to ignore is just node modules, and we'll just do that. And then we'll see anywhere in here. Now this is like grayed out. It's not going to be committed. However, what I always recommend people to do, and I'm sure you've seen me do this before, is gitignore.io is a cool website. And what we can do is we can put in like Mac OS in my case, and let's put in Node, JavaScript, I guess Java, no. Okay, Node, I guess we all have to care about. And this will give us a whole bunch of stuff. And you'll see actually like the debug logs are in here, DS stores, because I put Mac. So that's nice. Let's actually replace this. Node modules will be in here somewhere if we search for it. Node modules, there it is. So now that will still be not version control, but also my DS store files, which you'll probably already see in my repo because I didn't have this, will stop showing up. Okay, so now we have our index.ts. So let's actually make just a basic thing. Let's just make a variable called hello equals world, as we normally would do. And then let's make a function called hello. Wait, we can't use hello. Let's actually just call this world. World equals world. And then we can have hello. And let's just do something like return. Or let's actually, we'll come to this in a minute. For now, let's just try console logging, literally hello world. Oops, console.log, hello world. Okay, now, I think there's one more change I need to make. Let's just see. It's going to probably throw an error. npx tsc now. So we installed we initted tsc, but now we'll try running it. And let's see what happened there. There we go. So what it did is it actually compiled us a JavaScript file next to our TS file, which is great. And all it did, like this is pretty basic, it didn't really do much, but it put use strict just to be like, it's kind of stuff about like, I don't know, browser compatibility and stuff. I honestly don't know exactly, but this is actually our code here. So say we had let's make a new file, index.html, and let's grab our index.html from here and put it in here. And let's get rid of all this stuff. And let's just make sure we include our, it's called index.js, because that is the file that we need to actually load. We don't want to load the TS file. The browser will be like, I don't know what that is. And let's go to Chrome again and change this to lesson 6. And what happened here? Lesson 6. Oh, because it's right, www. We're no longer using a www folder apparently. Now we have this. And look, we have hello world happening. It's trying to import a style sheet. Let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that. All we really care about is a script tag. So now, yeah, we're getting our thing compiled. And now we can, basically do the same stuff we were before. We could remake our counter app if we wanted in TypeScript. But let's actually, see what TypeScript's all about. So, we can still, with TypeScript, we can do like const, hello, or let's do foo equals bar. And that's cool. But now we have the ability to add types to these kinds of things. So let's make it a var. So we don't even define it here. And then we'll say foo equals bar, something like that. So we can actually say foo, and it's going to be of type string, like that. So it's a little bit different than Dart. In Dart, you would, first of all, string would be capitalized in Dart. And secondly, you would put it on this side, right, without a colon. In here, we're basically saying there's this variable called foo, and oh, what's a type? It's string. Which now what's nice is we can kind of go like foo dot, and we get sort of like the IntelliSense of string-based things, which we wouldn't have, gotten before, although your IDE might, depending on how it's set up, because it can like understand, oh, it is a string at this point, but we sort of get that stuff, which is cool. So there we have that. And we can do, all that kind of stuff. There's string, there's number, just to be clear. There's not int, or as far as I know, there's not like integer and double and stuff. It's just number. It's just number. Okay, cool. And then you see, look, now we have an error here. It's saying string is not assignable number. So there, we have our first bit of type safety error happening. And if we tried to compile this now, we'll actually get an error. So that's nice. We have a bit of like now a build time and can kind of check those things, not just like in our IDE, but whatever. Now, you might be thinking, what about dynamic variables? So in Flutter, we would call it dynamic, or in Dart, we call it dynamic. In TypeScript, it's any. Okay, so now we won't have that error. However, obviously this putting any, I'm not even doing anything. Any kind of allows it to do that, so we're not really creating an error. But you'll find a lot of the time, especially when you're working in a framework, using any, you'll get like complaints about don't use any. There are cases to use it, of course, just like there's cases in Dart to use dynamic when it's like parsing like JSON and stuff like that, and you have to deal with those kinds of things. But for the most part, make everything type safe. So let's talk about how we can create our own types. This is like we have number, we have boolean, not bool, but boolean, string. If we're doing a list or something. So foo, say we wanted it to be a list of string, we would just do string like that and then put square brackets after it. So now it's saying that there's an error, but if we actually fix this to be a list or an array of strings, we won't have that problem. But if I put a number in here, we'll have an error because it's like this should be of type string. However, if this needed to be like this, we could have any and it'll work. So it's a little bit different. In Dart, obviously it would be list and then the type in this case, but we do it a little bit different. I don't know, better or worse. We're basically saying like this and then, but it's of type this. All right, cool. So that's how you would do a list. Now, what about our own classes? Well, generally what you would do is you create what's called an interface, which you can do in Dart too. So we can have an interface called, let's have animal. And an animal might have a name, that's a string. It might have what else? What else do animals have? A color or something like that, which we also can store as a string. Maybe it has a number of feet, and that would be a number, that kind of stuff. So now we could say, interface of foo is of type animal, and then obviously we'll get these errors here. And if we wanted to conform to this, we would actually have to make sure we had all these things, right? Let me get rid of the terminal. I don't think we'll need it too much more. So we could do name. So we're basically making, interface, it's an object, and we're saying its name is going to be, pig, and its color is going to be pink. Oops, sorry, that should just be a comma. That should be pink. And we're still getting this error here, right? Because it's saying, this should be feet. So then let's do feet equals 4. Okay, so we have our own type. Now say some parameters weren't required. Instead of doing the way you do it in Dart, you actually, in the interface, put the question mark here, okay? Now we actually, won't have that error because this can be a nullable number. So we're not putting it here as you would probably, expect it. It's actually, right there for whatever reason. So yeah, now we have our, type of animal. Cool. We can also create classes. So what a lot of the time in interfaces, you'll call it actually like iAnimal, and then you might make a class called animal that implements iAnimal. So I just being interface. And then right here, we would, need to pass in, sort of have these things. So we'd have, set its name, set its whatever kind of thing. And so just to show an example, just put this in here. Thinking of like this as like a to.json kind of thing in your model. It's a little bit verbose. There is other ways to do it by not having the interface and stuff, but we're just saying it implements this, and we have sort of the properties of this class which we're defining here, and then we're passing JSON of type any because that's just how we have to do it. Just like how you do dynamic, map string dynamic. And then we just sort of set these things. So now we can actually make an animal. And to do that, let's just get rid of this. And we have our animal equals new animal. So we actually have to do new, which that used to be a thing in Dart. We used to have to do new back in the day. Now you don't. But here now we have to pass in some JSON, or not JSON, but actual, I called it JSON. It's really an object it's expecting. If we want it to be a string, we would then have to decode it. So here we would have, name equal to pig. What else do we have? Color, pink, and feet, 4. And let's just see if I save this. It won't go to a new line, but you can still see it now. And then we can just like console.log the animal. So let's actually test our lovely code that we made here. We just run this, see if we got any errors. And if we didn't, we'll go to our browser and we'll refresh. And we see our animal, and it actually kind of automatically, because it knows its properties and its prototypes and stuff, it'll print this sort of stuff out for us. And look, all this cool stuff. It's you can keep going forever. There we go. Nope, still going. It's confusing, yeah, but don't worry about that. It's working. We have our console log, and of course we can do inheritance kind of stuff. So let's have a class called a biped, for instance, biped animal, and it extends our animal class. And what do we want to do for this? We can show this maybe a slightly different way. And what we can do here is have our constructor and still have the same signature, right? Because it kind of has to. It's extending this. But we're going to call super and pass the JSON in, and then we're going to override the feet. So no matter what gets passed into here, we're saying it's a biped animal, has 2 feet. It's like, I don't know, a human, a monkey, whatever. And let's make that var biped equals new biped animal. And we'll pass in name of monkey, and its color is brown. And again, feet is not required because it's optional anyways. So let's do that, and let's see if this works. Let's console log both. And compile it. And here we have our biped animal. And look, we never passed 2 in, but the super automatically did, or the the constructor of it automatically set that as like a constant, because that's the whole point of this class and this class. Yeah, so there we go. So yeah, a little bit of classes, a little bit of inheritance. So this is I think a lot nicer than what we were doing in the previous ones of writing just like JavaScript that could do anything and didn't have the nice IntelliSense. We saw lots of like errors already. It's really good. A lot more to TypeScript, but I think for just giving you like a quick intro, this was good enough, because we'll be using TypeScript in some of the frameworks we'll be digging into, and so on and so forth. So yeah, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next one.